Okay, we're going to talk about some history of chemistry today. I'm not going to quiz you on the history of chemistry, so don't be afraid of the dates and the names. But I think it's helpful to hear how we came to know some of these things, and it's just helpful in understanding. So back in the 5th century BC, this was a super long time ago, Leucippus and Democritus. Anybody heard of those guys before? I hadn't. They were the first guys to propose that matter was composed of small indestructible particles, and they gave them the name atomos, meaning indivisible. Democritus wrote, "Nothing exists except atoms and empty space. Everything else is opinion." They proposed there were many different kinds of atoms, and each of them was different in shape and size, and they moved randomly through empty space. So you think about 5th century BC, 500 years BC. These guys had some pretty big ideas. They're pretty close to what we know to be true today. Have you heard of Plato and Aristotle? Most people have, even if you don't know why, you've probably heard of them. Well, they didn't believe that. They thought that matter had no smallest parts, that you could just keep dividing it infinitely, and that all the different substances we see are composed of different amounts of the 4 elements: fire, air, earth, and water. You've probably heard that idea before. Well, there was no way to experiment and test to see whose ideas were better or had more merit. And so because Aristotle was more influential than Leucippus and Democritus, his ideas prevailed. They prevailed. And so science was set back 2,000 years because nobody believed Leucippus. Later, the scientific approach, the scientific method was developed, and people began to scientifically test ideas, and then things started moving forward again. So now we're in the 1700s, early 1800s. An English chemist named John Dalton, we'll hear from him a few times, he had convincing evidence that supported those ideas that atoms existed. So he had some evidence, but then the debate continued until 1905 when Einstein explained Brownian motion, and that really kind of settled the debate on whether atoms existed or not.